Welcome back to Unintended Consequences, episode 69 for July 25th, 2026. We're looking at a case today where the people involved were doing their best with the information they had. Uber set out to free drivers from taxi medallions with flexible, well-paid work and left millions earning below minimum wage in algorithm-driven jobs. In the summer of 2010, a small team in San Francisco began dispatching black town cars through an app that let riders request a ride with a few taps. The founders believed they were replacing a broken system of medallions, radio dispatch, and unpredictable fares with something cleaner and more efficient. Within 15 years, the same platform would manage millions of drivers whose take-home pay, after fuel, maintenance, and unpaid time, often fell below local minimum wages in the cities where Uber operated. Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp started the company after struggling to hail a cab on a snowy night in Paris in 2008. They saw the familiar frustrations of American taxi markets: medallion systems that limited supply, drivers who leased vehicles at high daily rates, and riders who faced long waits or arbitrary refusals. At the time, smartphone GPS and mobile payments offered a technical fix that could match supply and demand in real time without the old gatekeepers. Early investors and city officials in San Francisco viewed the idea as a way to increase vehicle utilization and reduce the need for large fleets sitting idle. The model treated drivers as independent contractors who could log on or off whenever they chose, an arrangement that matched the flexibility many part-time workers said they wanted. Regulators initially treated the service as a premium black car option rather than a direct competitor to yellow cabs, which lowered the political temperature at launch. UberCab began operations in San Francisco in May 2010 with a handful of licensed limousines. By 2012, the company had expanded to New York and several other cities, raised hundreds of millions in venture capital, and introduced lower-priced UberX services that recruited ordinary car owners. Proponents pointed to shorter wait times and lower fares for riders. A 2014 study commissioned by Uber itself reported that drivers earned a median of roughly $17 to $19 per hour before expenses in several major markets. Skeptics, including some labor economists and taxi regulators, warned that treating drivers as contractors would shift vehicle costs and downtime onto workers while the platform captured the data advantage. City councils in Boston and Washington, D.C. held hearings but largely allowed the service to grow under existing for-hire rules. The company's valuation climbed past $50 billion by 2015 on the strength of rapid rider adoption and driver recruitment. As driver numbers grew faster than rider demand in many markets, the algorithm adjusted payouts downward to keep utilization high. A 2018 study by the MIT Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research estimated that after subtracting vehicle expenses, net hourly earnings for Uber and Lyft drivers in several large U.S. cities fell to between $8 and $11. That figure sat below prevailing minimum wages once unpaid time between rides was included. Because drivers bore depreciation, insurance, and maintenance, the platform could lower fares without directly cutting its own margins. The same real-time data that matched trips also allowed the company to predict and manage driver availability, reducing the value of individual flexibility. Drivers who logged off during low-demand periods found it harder to reach weekly income targets. In response to reclassification efforts, Uber and its allies spent more than $200 million on lobbying and ballot campaigns between 2015 and 2022, most notably defeating California's AB 5 through Proposition 22 in 2020. The outcome locked in contractor status in that state, while similar fights continued in the UK, Spain, and Australia. Second-order effects included increased traffic congestion in dense cores as more vehicles chased fares and a growing population of full-time drivers who lacked unemployment insurance or workers' compensation when injuries occurred. Platforms responded to earnings pressure by tightening acceptance rates and introducing quests that required drivers to complete a set number of trips within narrow time windows. further constraining the flexibility originally advertised. After Proposition 22 passed, Uber and similar companies continued to face lawsuits and regulatory pressure in Europe and parts of Asia. Some cities introduced minimum per trip pay rules or caps on vehicle numbers. New York City's 2018 minimum pay standard for app drivers produced modest earnings gains but also prompted companies to reduce driver supply through stricter vehicle requirements. Uber went public in 2019 and later reported its first profitable year in 2023. Yet driver turnover remained high and recruitment increasingly relied on new immigrant communities. No large-scale reclassification to employee status has occurred in the United States. Instead, the contractor model has spread to delivery and other platform services. Estimates from the Bureau of Labor Statistics suggest that roughly 1.5 million workers perform driving or delivery tasks through apps as of 2023, with earnings distributions that remain heavily skewed toward the top decile of drivers. Incentive systems that treat labor supply as infinitely elastic tend to drive compensation toward the marginal cost of the next available worker rather than the cost of sustaining the workforce. When platforms control pricing, matching, and performance data while shifting capital costs outward, flexibility for the firm becomes precarity for the individual. Regulators and founders alike underestimated how quickly the original balance between rider convenience and driver earnings would shift once growth targets dominated decision-making. The pattern invites a practical question for any new platform or policy. What happens to compensation and risk when the number of participants doubles and the data advantage remains with the intermediary? We'll leave it there for today. Thanks for thinking through this one with me. If you know someone who loves a good cautionary tale, send it their way, and I'll see you tomorrow with another. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at Nara Network. Links in the show notes. Quick tip from the network: try Planetarian Daily next. Daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. Every Nara Network show is free at naranetwork.com. The age of AI puts real builders on the phone with an AI host. Apply at naranetwork.com/age-of-AI apply. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.